Evening, everyone. Welcome to Interludes with Charlottesville Opera. We have been serenaded in tonight by two of the artists that you are going to hear tonight, Trevor Schunemann and Catherine Henley. Thank you all for joining us this evening. The idea of Interludes is to bring you closer to the artists and the influencers who make Charlottesville Opera such a special place. And certainly the three artists who you're going to hear from tonight demonstrate that. I want to start by thanking all of you for your continued support, for your participation in programs like this. A huge shout out to the Joseph and Robert Cornell Memorial Foundation for their lead sponsorship, as well as to Miss Tessa Ader for her extraordinary support of our artists. You know, without all of your support, we would not be able to bring programs to you like tonight, and we certainly wouldn't be able to bring artists such as these to the city of Charlottesville for the community to enjoy. So before I turn it over to this star-studded cast, I want to just take a moment to make a personal note that it's been nearly 6 months since I began as the general director of Charlottesville Opera, and I am so deeply touched, moved, and motivated by the kindness that individuals like yourselves have shown to me, the support of the board of the directors, as well as the support of the artists within Charlottesville and the Charlottesville opera community. You know, ostensibly, I moved here because my husband took a job at University of Virginia, but I think most of you know that I was raised in these mountains, and all through my 20 plus years in Chicago, the call of the landscape and the sunnier skies and family cut through those howling winds. And my return to Virginia has not been a disappointment. And if anything, it is so deepened by my opportunity to work with Charlottesville Opera and create art with all of you for our community. So I'm so deeply grateful personally to all of you, and wanted to make a point of saying that to you tonight. So now I would like to turn this over to our artists and have them join me on the screen here. Each of them popping on. We will be joined by Trevor Schunemann, who is an extraordinary singer who has graced the Charlottesville Opera stages as Henry Hill in The Music Man, as well as Count Almaviva in Le Nozze di Figaro. Trevor has an incredible career. He has sung with Washington National Opera. He has sung with San Francisco Opera. He has sung with the Metropolitan Opera. He will indeed be on their live broadcast tomorrow night of Carmen. You can catch him there. And we were so excited because Trevor was going to return to Charlottesville this holiday season for a program we had planned to do at X Park, but alas, COVID restrictions made it that we had to cancel that. But what that gives me hope that we will have Trevor in the future. So I'm so excited that he can join us tonight. I'd also like to welcome Catherine Henley. I don't see her popping on just yet, but Catherine is joining us from Oslo, Norway, actually. So we can give her a minute. The connection might take a little bit. She can talk to you about why she is there. But Catherine started as a young artist at Charlottesville Opera, and also performed as Rapunzel and Into the Woods, as well as Barbarina and Le Nozze di Figaro. She's sung with the Utah Lyric Opera. She's sung with the New York Opera. She is a very cross-disciplined performer. She's an extraordinary dancer as well, and she will tell you about that. We're so pleased to have her. And I'm actually going to take it easy tonight and turn this conversation over to our Ader artist in residence, Miss Sharon Apostolou, who you all know and love. So in the midst of performing on stages across the country, Portland, New York City Opera, Glimmerglass, Charlottesville Opera, Sharon has sung with both Trevor and Katie, so this will be a really fun conversation. Just before I pass it off, I want to remind you that we are in a webinar environment, which means you as participants do not see each other, but you can see all of our artists here. You are on mute and will not be able to unmute to ask a question, but we do want this to be a two-way dialogue. So please do put your questions in the chat at the bottom of the page, and we will be answering those throughout at the end and certainly follow up if we need to do so. So with that, I will turn it over to the artist. We still do not have Catherine. But I'll let, there she is, yay, great. Okay, awesome. So I'm gonna let Sharon take it from here.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you all so much for joining us. I'm Sharon, your artist in residence, as I unplug my own computer. Beautiful. Thank you, Trevor and Katie, for joining us. It's so great to see you both. It feels like it's been ages. And yes, I have had the pleasure. I know it's been so long. I've had the pleasure of performing with both of you. Trevor and I did an Elixir of Love. My God, like a million years ago. I think it was like 2013. I had just gotten married, like literally hours before we had started rehearsal. And I think if I remember correctly, your first baby, did your wife just was about to give birth or something like that? I remember us going through like very large life events around the same time as that show. And
That's
Katie
right.
and I danced around each other at Glimmerglass. We were like missed each other, and then actually got to perform in Charlottesville together during South Pacific, and then in Into the Woods. So it is, and I, fellow Jersey girl. So it's good to see you both. Welcome. We're thrilled you're here.
Thank you.
Trevor, where are you joining us from? I know you're home, but where's home for you?
I'm home in Columbia, Maryland. It's just a town between Baltimore and DC on the 95 corridor.
Wonderful. And Katie, not that Columbia, Maryland is not exciting, but tell us a little more about where you are in the world right now and what are you doing there?
Sure thing. So I'm in Oslo, Norway, and I can't take credit for it being so cool. My now husband, Jack, was supposed to be performing here. And we thought he would be until just about last week when we got the news that they're shutting down also. But part of the reason we ended up eloping was to try to not get stuck on the opposite sides of international borders as we all crossed our fingers that work would hold out. So it worked out, but now we're just stuck together in Oslo for a little bit, which is great. Better than the alternative.
Wonderful. Please send Jack my love. It's been fun sort of watching you all on social media and eloping and imagining how crazy that must have all been.
That was pretty crazy. I think he's actually watching. Hi, Jack.
Hi, Jack. Yeah, so here we are. It's December. We're all still sort of in COVID world. And so, how have you both been doing? What's been new and exciting? Like, I know there's a lot. We've all been going through it. Like, have you been able to keep up practice scheduling? It can be really difficult. And I know as professional performers, that's my cat screaming in the background, having a lot of opinions as well. But just, like, how have you guys been doing as artists, being able to like sort of feed your artistic soul during a time like this?
Katie,
that's a great question. Trevor, do you want to jump? Okay. Well, we started out this whole adventure of a year in Minnesota. I was supposed to be making my role debut as Musetta in a really great production of La Boheme with Theater Latida in Minneapolis. And Jack was performing with Minnesota Opera, and we were very lucky that my uncle very generously said, come live in the house that I can let you use. And we said, great, it'll probably be about 2 months. And then 9 months later, we moved out. So we were lucky to have a place to be. And I think because we both had been, so surrounded by music, when things shut down, we sort of fell into this routine of like the only thing that felt normal was singing. So my uncle's living room and couch got a lot of Boheme, a lot of Sweeney Todd. If you haven't heard my husband, Jack Swanson's Sweeney, it's truly terrifying. In fact, months later, we found out the neighbors can actually hear when we sing loud. So they got a little bit of a show. but it meant that we kept singing, we kept making music, and I think that was a real blessing because, you know, it was a little too easy to slip into just only wearing pajamas and only watching Tiger King. So I'm grateful that we had that kind of impetus to keep making music. It kept us a little more sane, though we did watch Tiger King.
What about you, Trevor?
Yeah, I guess when COVID hit, I was finishing up a run of, I think it was of Marriage of Figaro, Noche de Figaro's at the Met, and I got to finish out that run. COVID hit hard, and my last some concerts and I run of Bohèmes at the Met were canceled, and then of course the whole season. The season was canceled, which was a big season, which was kind of rough. So as far as like artistically, I feel like I'm kind of in hibernation mode in that respect. I mean, I don't think I'm alone in that. A lot of my colleagues are feeling that practicing isn't what it used to be right now, and finding motivation to sing is hard. I will say I did a couple like in-person outdoor concerts, and that was really invigorating, as well as some of the online stuff, which was less so. That's not something that I have a hard time with that one. But the live in-person outdoor stuff I thought was great. That was really like, that helped me kind of perk up my artistic spirits, if you will. So I'm kind of just on holding, waiting for, I got some nice big offers for 2021, 22, 23, 24. But I'm thinking maybe in the new year, that's my resolution, is just to get back at it. But what I've been kind of occupying my time with is a lot of family time. That's something that as a father with a small child and a traveling artist is sometimes in short supply. So I'm kind of really taking advantage of that, spending a lot of time with my son, and kind of being around the house, doing all the house stuff that I couldn't have done before when I'm on the road, that kind of stuff.
That's wonderful. I know from a lot of our colleagues who spend so much time on the road like you do, and aren't able to spend as much time with their family as they like. That this hibernation, which is like the perfect way of putting it, has been so invigorating for their families, and being able to spend so much time kind of making up for lost time, as it were, especially with little kids. We have a question for you,
yes,
sir. For sure. They want to know, one of the hardest roles for baritone. What is this role that you'll be singing? You don't have to tell us where.
Yeah, that was a real breadcrumb.
I can tell you. Sorry. Man, I don't know if I can tell you. I have a formal
Don't tell us
offer.
where it is.
Yeah, I have a formal offer, but not a contract. So I'll tell you what it is. It's Wozzeck.
Yes.
That'd be awesome.
And it's in a major European house. So I'll put it there.
That's exciting.
So
I would love to hear you sing that. Have you done it before?
Ooh, no, that's not something I ever would even thought I would be attempting. But I saw Peter Mattei do it at the Met last season, and I think our voices. I think I can manage it.
Oh, I think you're gonna be fantastic. That's exciting.
Oh yeah.
So
absolutely. So speaking of singing, I would love to know.
It's quite a daunting task.
I'm sure. That's a lot of black on the page. But keep us posted when it becomes official and things like that. I would love to know how you two got your start in performing. Trevor, I'll start with you since Katie got to kick it off last time.
Sure. I grew up being required by my parents to be involved in music somehow, either taking instrument lessons or, it didn't matter what, they said you have to choose something and take lessons. Well, first they forced me into piano first, and I hated that. And so they said, well, you have to do something in music. So you choose what you want to pursue. So I chose classical guitar, and I played that for years into college. But in college, I also took some voice lessons, and my teacher was like, wow, okay. Here. And so I started kind of chorus gigs at the Washington National Opera, and then the four ball is pretty. I don't have to practice 8 hours a day to do this. So this, I think, I'll focus on singing rather than guitar.
We lost you up for a split
Did I
second
freeze?
there, but I think we got you. I think you're back now.
Okay.
So my follow-up
Gotcha.
question is, so then when you do like Don Giovanni or Figaro, do you play your own guitar?
I can. Yes, I have done the Giovanni with my own guitar.
Yes, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's
man, though, it makes me super nervous now, though. I have a hard time playing the guitar in front of an audience now because I'm so out of practice, because singing's so much easier.
It's very honest.
I mean, there's like literally, I think there's literally like 6 working guitarists in the world, and those guys have to practice 10 hours a day, and singing is I think more fun for less work.
Fair, very fair. Katie, tell us how you got started in all this.
Sure. Yeah. So actually also, Trevor, I can totally relate. I play the trumpet because my father plays the trumpet, but not professionally. And this spring, the production of Bohème, like 3 weeks before we were about to show up, I got an email and they said, "We saw on your resume, you also play the trumpet. Would you be willing to play in this production?" And I said, sure, thinking like a little riff or something. But it was a very cool pared down production with a pared down orchestra. And so they sent me all of the orchestral brass parts, which of course the top of Act 2 is brass.
Yes.
And I went, uh-oh.
Oh my God.
But we ended up doing it. And then I would just cut off and run off to switch into Musetta. But it was really an adventure. And I had the same thing where I went, I can do this. But if I'm going to do this in front of an audience, and in the place of people who do this professionally, I need help. So I was very grateful my dad was there to help me get through. Yeah, I grew up in a family of
the state
freelance. What? Oh, you cut out there for a second.
Did you play the trumpet as part of the staging for the opera?
Yeah. So the top of Act 2, you know, bam, 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 bam.
Yeah.
I would come out, do that dressed in one wig and one costume, and then I would tuck away my trumpet, run off the stage, throw on my new wig, some lipstick, a fur coat, come out and throw some shoes. It was great.
It was above and beyond.
It was great.
Good for you.
It was actually really good too, because it meant that I felt like I couldn't sit back there kind of like ramping myself up. I kind of just had to go. So by the time I entered as Musetta, I was like, give me a plate to throw. You know, like it wasn't, there was no chance to be nervous. But yeah, so the short of it is that my mother is a director, producer, and choreographer. She wears many hats. And my dad is a professional trumpet player. He played with the Chicago Symphony. When I was growing up, he was the first trumpet on Miss Saigon. And this sounds a little silly to say out loud, but I have never known what else I would do. The business of storytelling, and you know, there was a small crumbling hole in the pit wall next to where my dad played that if you needed to, you could just squeeze a 5-year-old. And I've been told it's still there in the Broadway theater and still sometimes used. No, I don't know. But so I grew up thinking like, well, maybe I'll do this someday. I just had to find my kind of niche. And I was a dancer first. I trained in ballet and I danced with New Jersey Ballet and thought I would do that until I kind of was bit by the music theater bug. And it's interesting that opera didn't get me first. My mom was directing. I was seeing operas since I was born, but it was music theater where I went, oh, I got to learn how to sing because I can kick my face, but I got to learn how to sing. And then by the time it was time to go to college, I picked out the vocal performance degree. because I assumed it meant I would sing all genres. And I got there and they handed me all of my classical repertoire only. And I went tink tink. And but then I really got bit by the bug of I can sing that, or I can sing higher, or I can do that run cleaner, or I can, handle really got my heart first because it's so related to, I think, brass instruments and the clarity and clean. And I'll never forget, my first professional job in opera was working for Utah Festival Opera for the summer, and they were doing a Traviata. And I wasn't sure. I loved singing opera, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to do it professionally or where I would go with it. And I had this job, and I'm sitting in my little, junior year of college apartment, and I thought, I have to learn this music. I'll watch a production. And I stumbled across the Salzburg Roland de Villazon and Anna Netrebko Traviata. And I remember watching the incredible intimacy and heightened drama at the same time. And of course the singing. And I just thought, well, if this is opera, I'm in. And I've kind of, done everything I could to keep telling stories ever since. I've definitely jumped back and forth between music theater and opera, but it had my heart ever since that day.
I love it. I want to pick on something that you said and like pivot to that direction, but I want to know where you both went to school first, actually.
I went to school for
Sure,
undergrad.
I went to Ithaca College.
Mm-hmm.
No. Oh, internet. I went to Ithaca College for my undergrad, and then I ended up actually out at Brigham Young University for my grad. I followed an incredible couple of voice teachers. Jenny Welch Babbage and her husband, Daryl Babbage, were teaching there at the time. So that was my trajectory. Trevor, to you.
No worries. I went to a small school in Tacoma Park, Maryland, called Columbia Union College for my undergrad. And then from there, I went to the Young Artist Program in Washington National Opera. So, yeah, I think I really learned opera there, obviously. But I had a couple of really good teachers in college, Don Gerlitsen and Kyle Engler, who you might know, Sharon.
Mm-hmm.
You know Kyle Engler?
Yeah.
She's a mezzo in DC.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I learned, the basics from her, and yep, got my feet wet in opera on the Domingo K. Fritz Young Artist Program.
Amazing. So yes, Katie, you brought up about doing both musicals and operas, which you both do and have both done at the Charlottesville Opera. So I would love to hear you both talk about sort of the similarities and the differences. I know people talk about like the crossover and the crossing over. I don't particularly love that phrase because it makes you feel like there's a divide between them, and I like to think that they are sort of one on top of each other, that we like. So I would love to hear, how in your minds, like how they differ, if your preparation is different, since you both have done quite a few of both.
Well, I think Katie has done a lot more Broadway than I have. I think I've done maybe two shows. I think Showboat and Music Man. Was there one other? I forget. But for me, the main difference was that spoken dialogue is terrifying, and I cannot remember it to save my life, versus a recit, which connecting the music to the text is so much easier to remember. Oh my God. Like, so running lines, like actually running lines like an actor, like that was obsessive while I was learning the Harold Hill stuff. Oh my God.
That is no joke dialogue either.
I know. So,
but I would love to see your Harold Hill. I thought that was incredible.
Yeah, it was a fun time. It was a stretch for me, I felt, but I enjoyed it.
That's awesome. I think I agree, Sharon. I think I feel like they are so closely connected in ways that we don't usually think of right away, and especially a role like Harold Hill, that dialogue has rhythm to it very similar to Russet. And if you get off that train, then you're a little bit in trouble. Yeah, I think in terms of preparation, and it's funny because that's changed over the past 10 years that I've been out of school, and I'm grateful. This has definitely been the past couple of years. I feel like my best practicing years yet, Dad, if you're watching. And I think probably the biggest difference for me, which I'm glad has been changing lately, but I think originally when I first was in the professional world, and it's something that I didn't always love, to be honest, but with opera, sometimes you would show up and people had performed these roles or these oratorios so often that they kind of already had their plan. They kind of already had the character, and there would be some dialogue. But music theater, you usually show up, and if you have time, you have table read right away, which is you sit down at a table and you talk through the characters, and everyone sort of builds the world together. So oftentimes the part where I would feel like the biggest difference came in was how we all approached the collaborative effort, because then in opera, it's sort of it's still a very collaborative effort. It's just a different animal, versus really building it from scratch together, so to speak. You start your foundation and then you build the walls. I don't know, not a carpenter. And I think that would be the biggest difference. Then of course, in the professional world, typically when you show up for a music theater production, you're not expected to be off book. So that's also the biggest outlandish difference, if you want to say, is that
I think
opera,
the couple Broadway shows I've done have been on the opera schedule, so we did show up learned. I would be interested to try the traditional Broadway route of coming and discovering the characters and kind of building it, but I think that takes so much longer, and no one has the time or money to do that most of the time.
But I will say, I think the Noce that we were both a part of in 2018, David Paul, who's an incredible director, and had such a strong sense for encouraging us to build it together. And he would talk to us about, who do you think this character is, which I thought was just fantastic. And I think that is building. I think more and more people are thinking like you are, Sharon, and saying, these two are interconnected very well. It's exciting.
Yeah, you can, as somebody that was in the audience for that Noce de Figaro, it felt like something that you had all built together, especially knowing that many of you had done those roles before, like some many times before, but it felt very cohesive. It felt everybody was telling the same story and everybody was in the same world, like musically and dramatically. It was, and like loads of fun as an audience member to watch you all on stage for those 4 hours. It was so much fun. Speaking of Noce, Trevor, I hear you have a long and exciting history with the show. Like perhaps you have jumped in halfway through in certain places. I would love to hear that story.
Oh my gosh. I think it was 2017-18 season at the Met. I was covering in the most recent production at the Met, the Richard Eyre production, and which is a very complicated set. I don't know if you've seen it in person or on video, but it's this giant Victorian type mansion inside a mansion. A lot of revolving dark passageways and complicated mechanics on the stage, revolving. It's as a cover, you don't get much time with that. And so we did as much as we could in the room, approximating the set pieces. But I was covering a colleague and he fell ill. I think it was just like halfway through the run. No, it was the last two shows of the run. And I get to the theater as usual, assume my position in the green room where all the cover artists hang out, and start your video game up or watch your Netflix show. I mean, we pay very close attention to what's going on stage. Not really. So then about halfway through the Act 2 finale, which is, they have one intermission in that show, in that production. I get a buzz on the phone in the green room from Christy, the stage manager, saying, we'd like you in the dressing room area getting dressed. The colleague is not feeling well. We're hoping he can continue, just to be ready, just in case. You're probably not going to go on, but just ready for you, just in case. So I'm like, I'm in my street clothes, just watching a cartoon on my phone or something like that. Like, not ready at all for this, because baritones don't cancel. Okay, so I'm like, oh, it'll be fine. He's not going to cancel. I'm in there getting dressed, and then I get a call on the dressing room phone saying, okay, get makeup on. And I'm like, oh crap, here we go. But he's still planning on going on. He's still don't worry, just get makeup on. He's still planning on going on. Okay, fine. And then like 2 minutes before the curtain was supposed to go up on, well, it's not really a curtain, but the lights come up on Act 3. Christy burst in the room saying, you're on. And I'm like, oh, okay. So and this was after, late in the run, the covers have stopped rehearsing. We're just chilling. We are hanging out. So it's been a while since I've done it on my feet. I practice bits of it every day, but haven't really in practice with my colleagues done much in the last few days. So I'm just like out of body experience. But luckily I'm just like, okay, it's kind of the things where you just resign yourself to just whatever comes out. So I get on there. Luckily I had the greatest.
You there? Oh no, it's the good part.
No, the suspense,
Trevor, come back.
Hello.
Yeah, you're back.
Good. Okay.
Okay, so you're about to go on the stage.
Yep.
Trevor.
Okay. So yeah, good. Sorry about that. And then the Zoom thing sucks. So I stumble out. So the Act 3, long, tough recit, top of Act 3. And I just go out there and I just kind of like, I'm so freaked out, so out of body, that I just kind of press play and just hope all muscle memory engages. And luckily my colleagues were the best. I mean, some of the top singers in the world ever. Eileen Perez, for example. I mean, my God. So she was like the sweetest. She just, she was like the Countess, and she got me through that show beautifully. Great response from the audience. But it was one of those things where I didn't black out. Like I didn't like, but I was like kind of watching myself from above, for that one, because this is the Metropolitan Opera and this is a big role, and it's like you go on, sing that recit, and then you sing the aria. Like, there you go. So, but it went well, and then the final performance, my colleague, the baritone that I was covering, said, "Oh, I'm feeling great," and the same thing happens again. The second show, the final show. So again, like 5 minutes before, halfway through Act 2 finale, I get the call in the green room saying, "You're going on, buddy." So I got to do it twice. The second time, I will tell you, was way more enjoyable than the first, because I had kind of, I half expected it to happen again, so I wasn't like blindsided. And I was able to kind of stay present and actually enjoy the performance. But the first time was the craziest, like, watch from above, out of body experience I think I've ever had on stage.
Was that the first time you'd ever gone on as a cover?
Yes, it is.
And have you gone on since?
No, I've sung roles, there, as scheduled. But man, I tell you what, baritones don't cancel. So it's like, I don't expect ever to go on. Yeah. Well, we need the money, you know what I'm saying?
That's honest.
Yeah.
That is amazing. That is such a great story. Yeah. Thank you for sharing with us. And you had done the role by that point. You had
Yeah, I
done,
think
you had sung the count.
quite a bit.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
So you were able to sort of like,
Yeah. Thank
your
God.
body, it was
Because
in your body.
yeah, if I hadn't had that previous kind of experience to fall back on, that would have been a nightmare. Yeah, so that was helpful.
So exciting. Katie, have you ever gone on as a cover? This is like a cursed topic. No, you're back. Say it again.
On my back. Not quite in those extreme. I did have a wild adventure in 2019. Honestly, my brain just, I'm not sure what year, 2019, spring of 2019. Jack was working in Cologne at the opera, and he was doing a production of Street Scene. And I went to visit my then boyfriend, and I only had like 7 days to be there. So I had my tiny carry-on with like 2 grubby sweaters, a pair of jeans. It was gonna be cold and rainy. I wasn't gonna see anyone. And I got there, and I had a couple other friends in the production, Kyle Albertson and Tim McDevitt. And, you know, I said, so great, can't wait to see you. And the first night we saw Tim, and he said, you know, I've been supposed to be rehearsing, but I haven't yet because the gal playing Rose Morant is sick. And he said, do you know it? And I said, I think I sang the aria in college. And so
yes,
you know, I didn't think any, yeah, of course. So I didn't think any more of it. And I wasn't going to be there for the production, you know, the performances. So I went into rehearsal to see just one, you know, see what Jack was doing. And on break, Lucy Bradley, our director, was saying, you know, I don't know, she's not been in for like 2 weeks. We don't know. And we don't know what's going to happen. And Kyle Albertson said, oh, well, Katie knows it. You should just have her. And she said, do you? And I said, yes. And I truly gambled on that one, but was very lucky. So then I got the call the next day from the intendant, and she said, you know, we'd love to hire you for the next 4 weeks as a rehearsal cover. I ended up doing all of the rehearsals, the final room run, and 2 performances. And I got the call on a Friday, and I was supposed to be leaving on Monday. So I quickly upended my entire world. I had to, you know, quick send out calls to all my soprano friends to cover the gigs I'd had, the concert gigs. And I said, Jack, can I borrow your score? And this is where it gets really rich, because Jack is a very tidy score haver. He takes notes, but his scores, he has them for years. They are in mint condition. And I had to learn this whole opera in 48 hours. And I'm a little more aggressive with my scores. And so someone was watching out for me. Dialogue usually does stick in my brain, and that music is so eminently hummable because it's that beautiful, real mixture of kind of a music theater style with more operatic singing. So by the grace of God, it stuck in my brain. And I still thought, you know, I'll show up though, and they'll probably just have me like sing from the chairs. They don't really need me in. And we got there, and I don't know if you know the show, but we dove right in with the trio of Rose and her father and her mother, they were big voices. It's Kyle Albertson and Allison Oakes, who usually sings Wagner. And I remember my heart, I just thought my heart was like 3 feet in front of my chest. It was beating so hard. And I thought, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it off book. Who knows? But we're just going to do it. And again, no idea how, but somehow it all stuck in my brain. Jack said he's never seen me look so like wild-eyed because I was up there like, you know, but it worked out, and it was such a high. And I remember not quite the same. It wasn't the Met, but I remember being on stage, because then I got to perform with Jack and sing that beautiful music, and just thinking, Katie, enjoy this. Like, don't forget this, because my brain was like, the next thing, what's the next thing? And what do we do? And just, you know, it was a real thrill.
I love it. I'm going to chime in my own story, because I went on as a cover once when I was a young artist at Portland Opera, and I had done the dress rehearsal for Handel's Rodelinda, the title role. I had done the dress rehearsal because my colleague, sickness had gone through the whole cast. It was one of those that like one by one, everybody got sick. And the amazing soprano that was singing Rosalinda was like last man standing. And then final dress, they were like, hey, she's not feeling well, you're doing final dress. And so she can do opening. And I was like, awesome. So I got to do final dress and it was spectacular. And they're like, there's no way you're going on. And I was like, okay, great. And then I get the call on Friday morning being like, you should just like come hang out and just be in the office all day. Like just be around. And I was like, okay. And then they were like, just go home, come backstage. We might put you in wig and makeup, but she'll be fine. She'll be fine. I get a call like an hour before curtain when I was like getting ready to leave to be there. And they're like, you need to be here right now. And I was like, oh my God. So I felt really fortunate that I had done the final dress. So I had at least like been on the stage and done the whole thing. But I remember there's a kid in the production, like her son is like a whole part of it. And I just remember there was one point where I'm there and I'm looking at him and I'm like trying to remember what my blocking is and what my recits are and like what these ornaments are and like trying to not like have a heart attack. And he looks at me and he goes, you're supposed to be stage left.
No.
And I was like, noted, thank you.
Yeah.
I was like,
From the
cool,
mouths of
thanks.
babes, you're
From the mouths of
supposed to
babes,
be
like
stage
supposed to
left.
be stage left. I'm sure I was. Thank you.
Bless him, professional.
Bless him.
Mhm.
Seriously, I was like, I didn't mean to mess up your show, sir. I'm like, just trying to get through it. Thank you. But it is crazy. I would like to pivot this conversation to our beloved Charlottesville. Since you both have been here more than once. Oh, also, to circle back to Katie's story about Tim was our Lieutenant Cable in South Pacific. So if you remember, for those of you that saw that, that's who she's talking about. But since you both have been here more than once, do you have a favorite memory from your time here? And I'm gonna also ask about your favorite restaurant because we all know that this is a foodie town. Or brewery, we'll take any and all of that. So yeah, Katie, sorry, do you have a favorite memory of your time here or, and then your favorite foods?
Oh gosh, well, both feel very hard to choose between, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think I can't choose, but I'll throw some out that I loved. I feel like my first summer there came as kind of a surprise. I actually only sent my materials in a little last minute. And when I found out I was going, I thought, great. And I didn't quite know what to expect. I had some friends working there, which is why I had sent my materials in. And I remember being struck right away by the community and the way that they respond and the way that they're engaged in the opera. And so when I came back in 2018, I couldn't wait, could not wait, and performing at Ix Art Park is always just like, you feel like you're surrounded by the biggest family reunion you've ever been at. Everybody's saying hi, everybody's enjoying it. There's kids running around, there's really cool sculpture and art. And then you get, but I think the one that stood out for me right off the bat in 2018 was I was performing with Washington National Opera. So I was close by and they asked me to come down and do a kind of like pre-season, teaser with Catherine White and Peter Morgan and Stephen Jarvie. And I remember we were on the beautiful UVA campus and I was singing and there was a, beautiful light. And I just remember looking out and every single person was engaged and was leaning in. And once again, thinking, this feels like coming home. I've never felt so, and seeing friendly faces and I just, that always blew me away. So any and every opportunity to talk to people who were patrons, who've come and seen the shows over the years and to see them walking along the mall, I just feel like it's such a special gem of a town, a city, and a community. And that's, unmatched. Food, how are you supposed to?
I know.
How?
I know.
Okay. Of course, the Carter Family Mountain, the donuts, the cider donuts. I remember, and part of that, of course, is the sunsets when you're up there and you're like, The first year I was there, I didn't know that I had a gluten issue. So I partook greatly at Mary Beth Cafe, and I'm so happy I did, because the second year was a little different. But then I spent all my time at Monsoon Siam enjoying Thai food galore. So truly, there was absolutely no bad experience. I feel like if you trip when you're walking in Charlottesville, you're going to end up on the best meal of your life with the most wonderful people. So those
I
are
have
Yeah.
to tell you, Katie, when you come back, Marie Bette has these almond flour, big, like, I think they call them like financiers or something. It's basically like a donut and a muffin had a baby.
oh my
They are
gosh,
amazing.
my heart. Do you know I follow them on Instagram? And honestly, like it's a love affair. In fact, in 2018, my amazing friends, Rachel and Sean McGowan, had moved down there, and their incredible, Rachel's incredible mother, Honor Dorsey, helped house me. And partly as a thank you to her, but also partly for selfish reasons, I would every opportunity just gift her a tart or gift her something. And I'd just be like, does it taste great? I can't wait. Sharon, we're gonna have to go.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Trevor.
Yeah, going off of what Katie was saying about the audience in Charlottesville, I really thought that, as an artist on the stage, one of the things that makes our job so enjoyable is that kind of emanation of energy and vibration out towards the audience, off stage, unmiked, just kind of giving sound and communication to the audience. And we all know that when an audience is not engaged or grateful for an art form, that it can fall flat and feel like we're a chore almost, if you know what I mean, if you know what I'm saying. But in Charlottesville, I always felt that every night, audience was very, very engaged and kind of really there for the right reasons, if you know what I mean. I think some opera houses throughout the world, there's a different energy, but in Charlottesville, I really feel like people were there. They were so grateful to receive the communication from the stage, and you could see every face was engaged. The breath was exchanged between the stage and the audience, and that was a really kind of a special dynamic there, I feel like. As far as another one of my favorite things that happened when I was there for Noce, I stayed with a really lovely family. I'm blanking on their names. I'm sorry for that, but it was out about 30 minutes outside of town in just gorgeous part of the country. I mean, just beautiful rolling green forest hills. And I was staying on the lower level of the house. They had a little, like a guest suite down there, and on the side of a hill down to a creek, so I could walk down there and just kind of like relax, the sound of the water, etc. But I remember sitting in my bed, probably watching Netflix or something like that in the evening, one night off, and I saw a shadow walk by my door, and there was a giant bear like right outside my door, just kind of like meandering past me. And I was like, it will wake you up, even though you're inside, but like, 3 feet away, just separated by a pane of glass, basically. And that was pretty cool. I gave it some time before I went for my evening walk that night, but that was an exciting moment. But yeah, but basically the audience in Charlottesville is one of the most special that I've performed for.
Like a nice place to pop back on and wrap up our conversation tonight. I don't know where else you would get great Thai food and a bear walking past your door. That is Virginia in a nutshell right there. So who couldn't love that? But I want to thank all of you, Trevor, Katie, of course, Sharon, for hosting tonight, for being with us tonight. It means so much. You were right that the audiences here are so engaged, and I know that everyone joining us tonight are very thankful to have this opportunity to hear your stories and bits of lore about your time here. So thank you all so much. Thank you to those who are watching, who support us. Again, big shout out to the Joseph and Robert Cornell Memorial Foundation, Ms. Tessa Ader, all of you. We couldn't do it without your support. And finally, I just want to say happy holidays to everyone. This is a challenging time, but I think the fact that we all have the capacity to engage with each other in this way, in this manner, means that we are so much better off than many people around the world right now. And so I'm grateful for that. So gratitude to all of you and peace to all of you. Look forward to seeing you in January when we host another Interludes. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. This was so much fun.
Thank you so much. It's great.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Happy holidays. And we look forward to seeing you again very soon.
Thank you.